The wine glass shattered against my cheekbone before I even saw it coming. Blood ran warm down my face as I stood there in shock, my hand still holding the wine bottle I had just refused to pour. My daughter-in-law Brittany was on her feet, her face twisted with rage, screaming words that would haunt me for months. "Maids must obey. That is what you are in this family, my servant." My son Michael sat frozen at the table, fork halfway to his mouth, saying absolutely nothing. I spent that night alone in my bathroom, carefully cleaning the cut on my face. The mirror showed an angry red gash about 2 inches long just below my left eye. It would scar, I knew that much. But the physical wound was nothing compared to the emotional devastation washing over me in waves. I pressed a cold compress against my cheek and tried to understand how my life had reached this point. How had my own son sat there and watched his wife throw a glass at his mother's face without saying a single word? Not one word of defense, not even a gasp of shock. I lay in bed that night, unable to sleep, replaying the evening over and over. The dinner had started normally enough. I had made pot roast, Michael's favorite since he was a boy. Brittany had been quiet during the meal, drinking glass after glass of wine. When she held out her empty glass to me for the 4th time, I had gently said no. I told her I thought she had had enough. That is when everything exploded. Looking back now, I can see there had been warning signs for months. Little things I had dismissed or explained away. Brittany had married my son Michael 2 years ago, and at first I had been so happy. My husband had passed away 5 years before, and Michael was my only child. I wanted him to be happy, to have a family of his own. But gradually, things had changed. Brittany started making small demands. Could I watch their dog while they went away for the weekend? Of course. Could they store some furniture in my garage? Sure. Could I help them with their grocery shopping since I was going anyway? Why not? Then the demands became expectations. The requests became orders. And her tone when speaking to me shifted from polite to dismissive to outright rude. I had mentioned it to Michael once, about 6 months ago. He had brushed it off. "Mom, you are being too sensitive. Brittany is just direct. She does not mean anything by it." So, I had stayed quiet. I did not want to be the difficult mother-in-law. I did not want to cause problems in their marriage. I swallowed my discomfort and told myself it would get better. But it had not gotten better. It had gotten worse. I finally fell asleep around 3 in the morning, exhausted from crying and thinking. When I woke up at 6, the first thing I did was make a decision. I could not let this continue. I would not be treated this way in my own home. If Michael would not defend me, I would defend myself. I got dressed and went downstairs to my living room. I started gathering things. Over the past year, Michael and Brittany had slowly been moving their belongings into my house. Extra furniture, they said they were storing temporarily. Boxes of books and decorations, winter clothes, holiday decorations, kitchen appliances, they did not have room for in their apartment. My house had become their storage unit, and I had never really questioned it. They were family. You help family. But now, looking at all their things crowding my space, I saw it differently. This was not helping. This was taking advantage. I spent the next 3 hours carefully packing everything that belonged to them. I was methodical and fair. I did not damage anything. I just boxed it all up neatly and stacked the boxes by my front door. There were 14 boxes total. Then I sat down and wrote a note. I kept it simple and clear. "Please remove your belongings today. You are no longer welcome in my home." I taped the note to the top box and stepped back to look at my work. My hands were shaking, but I felt a small spark of something I had not felt in months: self-respect. I had just poured myself a cup of coffee when I heard footsteps on my stairs. I froze. I had forgotten that Brittany had a key to my house. Michael had insisted I give her one for emergencies. Brittany appeared in my living room doorway, still wearing her pajamas. She must have driven over first thing in the morning. Her hair was messy, and her eyes were bloodshot from the wine. She looked at the boxes. Then she looked at me. Then she looked back at the boxes. Her face went pale. Then red. Then she started screaming. The sound was so loud and shrill that I actually took a step backward. She was pointing at the boxes, her whole body shaking. "What is this? What have you done?" Before I could answer, she pulled out her phone and called Michael. She put it on speaker, and I could hear it ringing. Michael answered, his voice groggy. "Hello?" Brittany's voice changed completely. The screaming stopped. Suddenly, she sounded frightened and tearful. "Michael, you need to come to your mother's house right now. She has lost her mind. She attacked me last night, and now she is throwing all our things out. I am scared. I think she is having some kind of breakdown." I felt my mouth fall open. That was not what happened. That was the complete opposite of what happened. "Michael," I started to say, but Brittany talked over me. "She is right here, glaring at me. Michael, I think there is something really wrong with her. She is not acting like herself. She is making up these crazy accusations, and now she is kicking us out for no reason." "I will be right there," Michael said, and hung up. Brittany looked at me and smiled. It was a cold, calculating smile that made my blood run cold. "You should have just poured the wine," she said quietly. Michael arrived 20 minutes later. I tried to explain what had really happened the night before. I pointed to the cut on my face. "Look what she did to me," I said. Michael barely glanced at the wound. "Mom, Brittany told me you fell last night. You are obviously using this injury to try to get sympathy and turn me against my wife." "I did not fall," I said, hearing my voice rise. "She threw a glass at my face because I would not give her more wine." Michael shook his head. "Do you hear yourself? You sound paranoid. Brittany said you have been acting strange for weeks, making accusations, being hostile to her for no reason. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Nothing I said mattered. Every word I spoke was being twisted and used against me." Michael started loading the boxes into his car. Brittany stood next to him, her hand on his arm, playing the role of the concerned and frightened wife. As they worked, Michael said things that cut me deeply. "You have never approved of Brittany. You cannot stand that I chose her over you. You are jealous that I have someone else in my life now." Each word was like a physical blow. This was my son. My baby boy who I had raised alone after his father died. The child I had sacrificed everything for. And he was choosing to believe a woman who had thrown a glass at my face over his own mother. They loaded the last box and prepared to leave. I stood on my porch, hugging myself against the cold morning air, watching my son walk away from me. As they got into Michael's car, I heard Brittany whisper something to him. The window was cracked open, and her voice carried in the quiet morning. Phase 1 complete. "Your mother will be begging us to take her house within 6 months. Then it is ours." I gripped the porch railing so hard my knuckles turned white, Michael responded, though I could not make out his exact words. Then I heard Brittany laugh. "Baby, I have done this 4 times. Old ladies are easy marks. We will be rich." They drove away. I stood there long after the car disappeared, my mind trying to process what I had just heard. This was not just about disrespect or a difficult relationship. This was something much worse. They were planning to take my house, my home, the place where I had lived for 32 years, where I had raised Michael, where my husband and I had built our life together. I went back inside and locked the door behind me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the deadbolt. The situation had just become infinitely more dangerous than I had realized. For the next 3 days, I tried calling Michael. Every call went straight to voicemail. I left messages asking him to please talk to me, to please listen to my side of the story. He never called back. On the 4th day, I decided to reach out to other family members. Maybe if they talked to Michael, he would listen. Maybe they could help me make him see what was really happening. I called my sister Patricia first. She was 3 years younger than me, and we had always been close. I told her everything. The glass, the boxes, the overheard conversation about taking my house. Patricia listened quietly. When I finished, there was a long pause. "Karen," she finally said, "are you sure that is what you heard? Are you absolutely certain?" "Of course I am certain," I said. "Patricia," she threw a glass at my face. Another pause. "Well, I mean, did anyone else see it happen?" "It is just, Brittany called me yesterday. She is really worried about you. She said you have been acting confused lately. Forgetting things, getting paranoid." My stomach dropped. "She called you?" "Yes." She sounded very concerned. "She loves you, Karen. We all do. Maybe you should think about seeing a doctor, just to make sure everything is okay. I am not confused, I said firmly. I know exactly what happened. Okay, Patricia said, but her tone said she did not believe me. Let us talk again soon. I need to go. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling the world tilt beneath me. I called my brother Thomas next. The conversation went almost identically. Brittany had called him too. She had told him the same story, that I was losing my memory, that I was becoming paranoid, that she was worried about me living alone. Thomas was a little more direct than Patricia. Karen, maybe it would not hurt to get checked out. You are 67 now. Sometimes these things happen as we age. Early dementia can cause personality changes, memory problems, paranoia. I do not have dementia, I said. Just think about it, he replied gently. We love you. We want to help. Over the next week, I discovered that Brittany had contacted nearly everyone I knew. She had called my friends from church. She had somehow found the phone numbers of women from my bridge club. She had even contacted my neighbors. And to every single person, she had told the same story. Karen is not well. Karen is losing her memory. Karen is becoming paranoid and hostile. I am so worried about her. When I went to church the following Sunday, people who had known me for 15 years looked at me with pity and concern. They asked how I was feeling in that careful tone people use when they think you are fragile. At Bridge Club on Tuesday, the ladies suggested maybe I should take some time off. Just until you are feeling better, they said. I started noticing people whispering when I walked by. The woman at the grocery store who had chatted with me every week for years suddenly avoided eye contact. My neighbor who used to wave and smile now hurried inside when she saw me. Brittany was destroying my reputation. She was systematically isolating me from everyone I knew. And she was doing it by playing the part of the caring, concerned daughter-in-law who was trying so hard to help her poor, declining mother-in-law. It was brilliant, and it was evil. I knew I needed evidence, something concrete to prove what had really happened. I checked my phone, hoping I had somehow recorded the dinner. I had not. There were no witnesses except Michael, and he would never support me. I started writing everything down in a notebook. Every interaction, every date, every detail I could remember. I documented the timeline of events. If this turned into something bigger, I would need a record. Then, on a Wednesday afternoon 2 weeks after the glass incident, Michael showed up at my door. I opened it cautiously. He stood on my porch holding a folder of papers. His expression was cold and formal. He would not meet my eyes. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside, and he walked past me into the living room. He sat down on the couch and opened the folder. I sat across from him in the armchair that had been my husband's favorite. "Brittany and I have been talking," Michael began. "We are concerned about you living alone. We think you need help managing your affairs." "I am managing just fine," I said carefully. He pulled out papers from the folder. "This is a power of attorney document. If you sign this, it will allow Brittany and me to help you with financial decisions, medical decisions, anything you need. It is just in case. It is for your own good." I looked at the papers but did not take them. Why would I sign away my power of attorney when there is nothing wrong with me? Michael's jaw tightened. "Mom, if you really have nothing to hide, if you really are fine, then there is no reason not to sign this. It is just a safety measure. If you love me, if you trust me, you will do this." The emotional manipulation was so obvious it made me angry. "I am not signing anything," I said firmly. Michael stared at me for a long moment. Something in his eyes changed. The mask of the concerned son slipped for just a second, and I saw something underneath. Something cold and calculating. Something that reminded me chillingly of Brittany. "You are making this harder than it needs to be, Mom," he said quietly. "We are going to get what we want either way. You can cooperate, or we can do this the hard way." The words hung in the air between us. I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean by that?" I whispered. Michael stood up, gathering his papers. "Think about it. I will be back next week for your answer." He walked out. I went to the window and watched him get into a car parked at the curb. Brittany was in the passenger seat, waiting for him. As he got in, they looked at each other and laughed. Actually laughed. Then they drove away. I sank into the armchair, my mind reeling. My son was not being manipulated. My son was not a victim. My son was actively conspiring with Brittany to take everything from me. The situation had just escalated from bad to catastrophic. This was not just Brittany anymore. This was both of them, working together, planning something terrible. And I had no idea how to stop them. 2 days later, I was going through my bills when I noticed something strange. There was a credit card statement for a card I did not remember opening. The company name was unfamiliar. The balance showed $3,700 in charges. I called the credit card company immediately. After being transferred 3 times, I finally spoke to someone who could help. They confirmed that the card had been opened in my name 6 weeks ago. The charges were for restaurants, clothing stores, electronics. I never made these purchases, I said. I never opened this account. The representative was sympathetic but firm. The application was completed online using your name, social security number, and date of birth. The billing address is your home address. Are you saying this is fraud? Yes, I said. This is fraud. She explained the process for disputing the charges. I would need to file a police report. I would need to fill out affidavits. It would take months to resolve. I hung up and immediately checked my other accounts. My stomach sank as I discovered 2 more credit cards I had not opened. The total fraudulent charges were over $8,000. Someone had stolen my identity, and I had a terrible suspicion about who that someone was. I went to my bedroom and opened the safe in my closet. My husband had installed it years ago for our important documents. I knew the combination by heart. 4, 17, 63. Our wedding anniversary. I opened the safe and started going through the contents. My birth certificate was gone. My social security card was missing. The original deed to my house was not there. My hands started shaking as I searched through everything twice. 3 times. The documents were definitely gone. The safe had not been broken into, which meant someone who knew the combination had taken them. Michael was the only other person who knew that combination. I had given it to him years ago in case of emergency. I sank onto my bed, feeling sick. They had stolen my identity documents and used them to open credit accounts. They were destroying my credit, creating debt in my name. Over the next week, more problems appeared. I received a notice from another credit card company about a late payment on an account I never knew existed, then another, and another. My credit score, which had always been excellent, was plummeting. I tried to report everything to the police, but the process was frustratingly slow. I filled out forms. I waited for callbacks. I was transferred from department to department. Everyone was sympathetic, but no one seemed to treat it as urgent. Then, 3 weeks after discovering the first fraudulent account, I received a letter from a bank I had never done business with. It was a congratulations letter. Apparently, I had been approved for a home equity line of credit for $80,000. My hands shook as I read the letter. I had never applied for this. I called the bank immediately. The customer service representative confirmed that the application had been approved 2 weeks prior. But I never applied for this, I said, my voice rising. This is fraud. The representative checked the account. The application was completed in person at our branch on Maple Street. The applicant provided all necessary documentation, including your driver's license, social security card, and property deed. That was not me, I insisted. Someone is impersonating me. There was a pause. Ma'am, we have video footage of the application being submitted. I can assure you, someone was here. Can you describe the person in the video? I asked desperately. Another pause. I am not supposed to, but, well, the woman was blonde, maybe in her 30s, wearing sunglasses and a hat. She had all your documents. Everything was in order. Brittany. It had to be Brittany. She was blonde. She was in her 30s, and she had access to my stolen documents. I need to speak to a manager, I said. This is identity theft. I need this loan canceled immediately. Over the next hour, I was transferred between 4 different people. Each one told me the same thing. The loan had been processed according to proper procedures. The money had already been disbursed. If I wanted to dispute it, I would need to file a police report and begin a formal investigation. But in the meantime, I was responsible for the payments. I hired a lawyer. Her name was Janet Morrison, and my sister Patricia had recommended her. Janet was in her 50s, sharp and professional. She listened to everything I told her and took detailed notes. "This is serious," Janet said when I finished. "Identity theft on this scale can take years to fully resolve. We need to act quickly." She helped me file police reports for the identity theft and the fraudulent loan. She contacted the credit card companies on my behalf. She sent letters to the bank demanding they investigate the loan application. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small glimmer of hope. I was taking action. I was fighting back. That hope lasted exactly 2 days. On a Thursday afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find a police officer standing on my porch. "Karen Thompson?" he asked. "Yes, that is me." He handed me an envelope. "You have been served." I took the envelope with shaking hands. After he left, I opened it. Inside were legal documents, a petition for a restraining order against me. The petitioners were Michael Thompson and Brittany Thompson. I read through the documents in disbelief. They claimed I had been harassing them, calling them repeatedly, sending threatening text messages. They included printouts of texts I had supposedly sent. Messages saying horrible things, threatening things. I had never sent those messages. The texts had been edited or faked somehow, but they looked real. The phone number was mine. They also included photographs, pictures of their apartment with a broken window, a dented car, scratches on their door. They claimed I had done all of it. I had not. I had not been anywhere near their apartment. But the temporary restraining order had already been granted. I was prohibited from contacting Michael or Brittany in any way. I could not call, text, email, or come within 500 feet of them. If I violated the order, I would be arrested. I called Janet immediately. She reviewed the documents and sighed heavily. "This is bad, Karen. This makes you look like the aggressor. It gives them credibility when they claim you are unstable." "But I did not do any of this," I said. "Those texts are fake. I never went to their apartment." "I believe you," Janet said, "but proving it will be difficult. And unfortunately, this restraining order complicates our fraud case. They are building a narrative that you are the problem, that you are harassing them. It makes their claims that you are mentally unwell more believable." I felt the walls closing in around me. Every move I made to defend myself was being turned against me. Every action they took put me in a deeper hole. Then Janet called me with even worse news. "I have been researching the home equity loan," she said. "Karen, this is going to be extremely difficult to dispute." "Why?" I asked. "The bank has video footage from their security cameras. It shows a woman applying for the loan in person. She is wearing sunglasses and a wig, but she has all your documents, your driver's license, your social security card, your property deed. Without proof of where you were on that specific day, and without Michael potentially testifying about your mental state, the bank is not going to budge." "What does that mean?" I whispered. "It means if we cannot prove fraud, you are legally responsible for that loan. The monthly payment is $2,400. If you cannot make those payments, the house goes into foreclosure." I did some quick math in my head. My Social Security and pension gave me about $3,200 a month. If I paid $2,400 to the loan, that left me $800 for everything else: property taxes, utilities, food, insurance, medicine. It was impossible. "I have $11,000 in savings," I told Janet. "How long can I last?" "Maybe 5 months if you are very careful," she said gently. "Then, Karen, you will lose the house." I hung up the phone and sat in silence. I had tried to fix the identity theft problem. I had hired a lawyer. I had filed police reports. I had done everything right. And somehow, the situation had gotten worse. Much worse. I had escaped the frying pan of having my reputation destroyed. But now, I was in the fire of losing my home entirely. And I had no idea how to get out. The first payment notice for the home equity loan arrived on a Monday. $2,400 due in 30 days. I sat at my kitchen table with my checkbook and a calculator, trying to make the numbers work. They would not work. Even if I cut every possible expense, even if I stopped buying anything but the absolute necessities, I could not afford this payment and keep my house running. I was 67 years old and facing the real possibility of losing my home. The home where I had lived for 32 years, where I had raised my son, where every room held memories of my late husband. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do next. Every option seemed impossible. The next morning, I went out to get my mail and found something unexpected. An envelope with no return address, just my name and address, typed on a plain white label. No stamp. Someone had put it directly in my mailbox. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. Your daughter-in-law is not who she claims to be. Check Harris County, Texas. Civil records from 2018. Look for the name Brittany Palmer. She has done this before. I read the message 3 times. Brittany Palmer. Her maiden name was supposed to be Walsh. At least, that is what she had told us. Who had sent this? How did they know about Brittany's past? And why were they helping me? I did not own a computer. I had never been comfortable with technology, but I knew the public library had computers available for use. I drove to the library and asked the librarian for help accessing the internet. She was patient and kind, showing me how to navigate to the Texas Public Records database. I typed in Brittany Palmer and Harris County and 2018. Several results came up. I clicked on the first one. It was a civil case from July 2018. The case title was Sarah Palmer and Donald Palmer versus Brittany Palmer. I clicked to see more details. The case summary made my blood run cold. The Palmers, an elderly couple, had sued their daughter-in-law Brittany for financial exploitation, identity theft, and elder abuse. The case had been settled out of court. The details were sealed as part of the settlement agreement, but the summary was enough. Brittany had done this before. She had married someone, targeted his parents, and stolen from them. My hands were shaking as I printed the case summary. I printed every page of public information I could find. Then I did something that felt both terrifying and necessary. I searched for Sarah Palmer's contact information. I found a phone number listed in public records. I drove home and sat by my phone for 20 minutes, trying to build up the courage to make the call. Finally, I dialed. The phone rang 4 times. Then a woman's voice answered. Hello? Is this Sarah Palmer? I asked. Yes. Who is calling? My name is Karen Thompson. I am calling because I think Brittany Palmer, your former daughter-in-law, is married to my son now. There was a long silence. Then Sarah said in a voice barely above a whisper, Oh God, she found another family. We talked for over an hour. Sarah was 78 now, retired, living in Texas with her husband Donald. And she told me a story that sounded horrifyingly familiar. Brittany had married their son Gregory in 2016. At first, everything seemed fine. She was charming and attentive. But within 6 months, things started changing. She began isolating Gregory from us, Sarah explained, telling him we did not approve of her, creating drama. Then she started stealing. Small things at first, then bigger things. She got access to our financial information somehow, opened credit cards in our names, took out loans. Did she turn your son against you? I asked. Completely. Gregory believed everything she told him. She convinced him we were losing our minds, that we were senile and paranoid. By the time we realized what was happening, she had stolen over $100,000 from us. What happened? How did you stop her? We sued her. It cost us everything we had saved to fight that case. In the end, we settled to avoid a criminal trial that might have sent our son to prison too. We lost our life savings. We almost lost our house. Gregory divorced her a year later after she had drained his accounts and moved on. Moved on to my family, I said quietly. I am so sorry, Sarah said. She has a pattern. She finds men with parents who have assets, usually a house or significant savings. She marries the son. She isolates him from his family. She turns him against them. Then she systematically steals everything she can. When there is nothing left to take, she disappears. Sarah agreed to send me copies of everything she had from their case. Court documents, timeline of events, evidence of Brittany's pattern of behavior. I hung up feeling both validated and terrified. I was not crazy. I was not imagining things. This was real. Brittany was a con artist, and my son was her latest target. But knowing the truth and proving it were two very different things. The next day, I received Sarah's package via overnight delivery. I spent hours reading through the documents. The similarities to my situation were stunning. Almost every tactic Brittany had used on the Palmers, she was now using on me. I took everything to Janet, my lawyer. She spread the documents across her desk and read through them carefully. "This is excellent," Janet said. "This establishes a pattern of behavior. This could be the evidence we need to prove fraud and get the police to take this more seriously." She contacted the district attorney's office. She sent them copies of the Texas case. She argued that this was not a simple case of identity theft, but a complex criminal enterprise. I started to feel hopeful again. Maybe this was the break I needed. Maybe now someone would listen. Maybe now I could stop this nightmare. That afternoon, I made a decision. I knew I was violating the restraining order. I knew it was risky. But I had to try one more time to reach my son. I had to warn him. Even after everything he had done, even after his cruelty and betrayal, he was still my child. If Brittany had done this to her previous husband, she would do it to Michael too. Once she had taken everything from me, she would drain Michael's accounts and disappear. I drove to Michael's workplace, a software company in an office park 20 minutes away. I parked in the lot and waited. Just after 5 in the afternoon, I saw him walking to his car. I got out and approached him. "Michael," I called out. He turned, and his face immediately hardened. "Mom, you are not supposed to be here. There is a restraining order." "I know, but please, you need to listen. Just 5 minutes." "I am calling the police," he said, pulling out his phone. "Brittany has done this before," I said quickly. "She was married before you, to a man named Gregory Palmer. She stole from his parents, over $100,000. She turned Gregory against them just like she is turning you against me. I have court documents. I have proof." I held out the folder with the papers Sarah had sent. Michael looked at it but did not take it. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Surprise, doubt. He looked at the folder, and I saw his hands tremble slightly. "Look at them," I pleaded. "Just look at the documents. This is public record. She has done this before, Michael. And when she is done taking everything from me, she will take everything from you too and disappear." He took the folder slowly, opened it, started reading the first page. I watched his face as he read about the Palmer case, about the identity theft, about the pattern of abuse and manipulation. His hands were shaking now. He flipped through page after page, reading the details of what Brittany had done to her previous in-laws. "Michael," I said gently, "I love you. I am trying to save you." He looked up at me. His eyes were filled with tears. For one brief moment, I thought I had reached him. I thought my son was coming back to me. Then, his expression changed. The tears disappeared. His face became hard and cold again. "You hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on my wife," he said. "You fabricated these documents. This is exactly the kind of paranoid, crazy behavior Brittany warned me about." "What? No, Michael. These are real court documents. You can verify them yourself. You are stalking me at my workplace. You are taking photos of me. You are breaking the restraining order." He thrust the folder back at me. "You are proving everything Brittany said about you is true. You need help, Mom. Professional help. Michael, please. Stay away from us," he said. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. I could hear it ringing. Then a voice answered. "I need to report a restraining order violation," Michael said into the phone. "My mother is here at my workplace, harassing me." I felt my heart break. I had tried to save him. I had shown him proof, and he had chosen to believe Brittany anyway. I got in my car and drove home. 20 minutes later, the police arrived at my house. I was arrested for violating the restraining order. They handcuffed me in my own living room. Read me my rights. Put me in the back of a police car while my neighbors watched from their windows. I spent that night in jail, in a cold cell with concrete walls and a metal bench. At 67 years old, I had never even had a speeding ticket. Now I was in custody, fingerprinted and photographed like a criminal. I posted bail the next morning using $5,000 from my rapidly dwindling savings. My mugshot appeared in the local newspaper's police blotter that week. It was a small item, just my name and the charge, violation of restraining order. But in a small community, everyone saw it. The arrest was proof, final, undeniable proof to everyone who had been on the fence. Karen Thompson was unstable, obsessed with her daughter-in-law, harassing her own son, clearly losing her mental faculties. Even Patricia, my own sister, called me after she saw the news. "Karen," she said sadly, "maybe you need to consider that you are not seeing things clearly. Maybe you need help. There are facilities that can help you." "I am not crazy," I said, but my voice sounded weak even to myself. When I went to church that Sunday, the pastor took me aside. He suggested, kindly but firmly, that perhaps I should take some time away from services until I got some help. My bridge club called to tell me I was no longer welcome. My neighbors stopped making eye contact. I was completely isolated, branded as mentally ill, marked as a harasser and a troublemaker. And then, 3 weeks after my arrest, the notice came. Official letterhead from the bank. Notice of foreclosure proceedings. I was 3 months behind on the fraudulent loan payments. I had not made a single payment because I could not afford to. The letter stated that unless I paid $47,000 within 60 days, my house would be sold at auction. I had $11,000 left in savings. There was no way out. I sat at my kitchen table with the foreclosure notice in front of me, and I did something I had not done in a very long time. I cried. Not quiet tears. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from the very center of my chest. I was going to lose my house. I was going to lose everything. That evening, I received an email from Michael. The subject line said, "A solution." I opened it with shaking hands. "Mom, I know we have had our difficulties, but Brittany and I have been discussing your situation. We know you are facing foreclosure. We want to help. Despite everything that has happened, family is still important to us. We are willing to buy the house from you. We can offer $120,000. This would pay off your loan and give you enough money for a fresh start in a retirement community. Let us know if you are interested. Michael, $120,000. My house was worth $450,000. They were offering me a fraction of its value, but they knew I had no choice. Either I sold to them at their price, or I lost the house entirely in foreclosure and got nothing. The trap was complete. They had destroyed my credit, stolen my identity, isolated me from everyone I loved, turned my own son against me, and manufactured a financial crisis that left me with no options. I sat there staring at the email for a long time. Then I heard a sound. My computer made a small ding indicating another email had arrived. I almost did not check it, but something made me click over to my inbox. The email had no subject line. The sender was an anonymous email address. Just random letters and numbers. I opened it. There was no message, just a video file attached. I downloaded it and clicked play. The video was shaky, filmed on a phone. But I could see 2 people sitting in a car. The timestamp in the corner said it was from 3 years ago, October 2022. One person was Brittany, younger, but definitely her. The other person was Michael. They were looking at something on a phone screen. I could not see what it was, but I could hear their conversation perfectly clearly. Brittany's voice. "She is a widow, no other kids. This one will be easy. The house alone is worth $500,000. Michael's voice. "You are sure this will work like last time?" Brittany's voice. "Baby, I have done this 4 times before. Old ladies are easy marks. We just have to be patient. 18 months, maybe 2 years. Then we will own that house, and we can sell it. Split the profit. We will be rich." Michael's voice laughing. "I love you." Brittany's voice. "I love you too. Now let us go meet your future victim." The video ended. I sat frozen, staring at the black screen. Michael had known. From the very beginning. Before they even met me, This entire thing had been planned. The courtship, the wedding, moving things into my house. All of it. My son was not a victim being manipulated by a con artist. My son was a con artist himself. He was Brittany's partner, her accomplice. They had targeted me together. Everything I had believed about him, everything I had tried to save him from, was a lie. I was not trying to save my son from Brittany. I needed to save myself from both of them. I watched the video 3 more times. Then I made copies. I saved it to a thumb drive. I emailed it to myself at 3 different email addresses. I uploaded it to a cloud storage service. I was not going to lose this evidence. Then I sat in the dark in my living room, grieving for the son I thought I had, grieving for the little boy who used to hold my hand and tell me I was the best mom in the world, grieving for the life I had thought I was building. That boy was gone. Maybe he had never really existed. Maybe I had been blind all along. I do not know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. But at some point, something inside me shifted. The grief was still there. But underneath it, something else was growing. Something hard and cold and determined. They had taken almost everything from me. My reputation, my relationships, my sense of safety. They were about to take my home. But I was not dead yet, and I was not going to go down without a fight. I had video evidence now, proof of their plan, proof that they had targeted me deliberately, proof that Michael had been involved from the start. It was time to stop being a victim. It was time to fight back. And I was about to show them that this old lady was not as easy a mark as they thought. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I had not felt in months. I made coffee, ate breakfast, and sat down to plan my next move. I had the video, but I needed to use it strategically. If I just sent it to the police, Michael and Brittany might claim it was edited or fake. I needed to be smarter than that. First, I made more copies of everything I had. The video, Sarah Palmer's documents about the Texas case, the timeline I had been keeping, the fraudulent loan paperwork, everything. I put one complete set in a manila envelope and addressed it to my sister Patricia. I included a note. Patricia, if anything happens to me, please take this to the police. I love you. I mailed the envelope. Then I felt slightly safer knowing the evidence existed somewhere outside my house. Next, I called Janet, my lawyer. I told her about the video. She asked me to bring it to her office immediately. I drove over that afternoon. Janet watched the video 3 times, taking notes. When it finished, she sat back in her chair and whistled. "This changes everything," she said. "This proves conspiracy. This proves intent. This proves they targeted you specifically as part of a planned con. Can we use this to stop the foreclosure?" I asked. Janet frowned. "Maybe, but here is the problem. The bank does not care about the backstory. They care that a loan was taken out in your name using your documents, and payments are not being made. Even with this video, they might say you are still responsible for the loan, unless we can prove you had absolutely no involvement. So what do? We take this to the police, to the district attorney. With this video and the Texas case documents, they should open a criminal investigation. That might force the bank to freeze the foreclosure while the investigation proceeds." Janet contacted Detective Angela Rodriguez, who worked in the Financial Crimes Unit. Detective Rodriguez agreed to meet with us the next day. That meeting was the first time in months that someone in authority actually listened to me, really listened. Detective Rodriguez was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and serious. She watched the video twice. She reviewed all the documents. She asked detailed questions about the timeline of events. When we finished, she leaned back in her chair. "This is good evidence," she said. "Very good. But I am going to be honest with you. It is complex. The video proves they intended to con you. But we still need to prove the actual crimes. The identity theft. The fraudulent loan application. The forged documents. Can you prove that?" Janet asked. "Maybe. We need more. Ideally, we need to catch them in the act or get a confession." "How do we do that?" I asked. Detective Rodriguez looked at me thoughtfully. "Would you be willing to wear a wire? To meet with them and try to get them to talk about what they have done?" My heart started beating faster. That sounds dangerous. It could be. but we would have officers nearby. If things get difficult, you say a code phrase, and we come in immediately. I thought about it. I thought about my house, my life, everything they had taken from me. Yes, I said. I will do it. Over the next week, Detective Rodriguez and her team prepared. They coached me on what to say, how to guide the conversation, what questions to ask. The plan was simple. I would contact Michael and tell him I was ready to accept their offer to buy the house. I would invite them to my home to discuss the details. While they were there, I would wear a hidden recording device. I would try to get them to admit to the fraud. If they confessed on tape, Detective Rodriguez could make arrests immediately. On a Saturday morning, I sent the email to Michael. I kept it short and defeated. Michael, I have thought about your offer. You are right. I need to be realistic about my situation. I am ready to sell you the house. Can you and Brittany come to discuss the details? Mom. Michael responded within an hour. We can come this afternoon, 2 o'clock? I confirmed. 2 o'clock. At noon, Detective Rodriguez came to my house with the recording equipment. It was smaller than I expected. A tiny device that clipped to my bra. A microphone no bigger than a button. Remember, she said as she tested the equipment, we need them to talk about the specifics. The loan. The stolen documents. The plan. Try to get them to brag. People who commit these crimes often like to gloat once they think they have won. She gave me a code phrase. If I felt threatened, if things went wrong, I was supposed to say I need some water. That would be the signal for the police to come in. 3 officers would be in an unmarked van 2 houses away. They could hear everything through the wire. They would be there in seconds if I needed them. At 1:45, Detective Rodriguez and her team left. I was alone in my house, waiting. At exactly 2 o'clock, there was a knock on my door. I opened it. Michael and Brittany stood on my porch. Michael looked uncomfortable. Brittany was smiling. Hi, Mom, Michael said, not quite meeting my eyes. Hello, Karen, Brittany said warmly. We are so glad you are being reasonable about this. They came inside. We sat at my dining room table, the same table where Brittany had thrown the glass at my face almost 3 months ago. I wondered if she remembered. Brittany pulled out a folder with papers. This is the sales contract, she said. Everything is already filled out. You just need to sign. We can close in 2 weeks. This will solve all your problems. I looked at the contract but did not touch it. My hands were shaking. I needed to stay calm. I needed to follow the script Detective Rodriguez had given me. Before I sign, I said slowly, I need to understand something. How did that loan get opened in my name? I never applied for it. The bank said someone came in person. Brittany's smile tightened slightly. Karen, you are old. You probably did apply for it and just do not remember. That is why you need to sell the house. Before you make any more mistakes. But I saw the bank's security video, I said. The woman in the video looked like you, Brittany. There was a beat of silence. Michael shifted in his chair. That is ridiculous, Brittany said. Why would I open a loan in your name? I also found out about your previous husband, I said, watching her face. Gregory Palmer, and his parents, the lawsuit in Texas. Brittany went very still. Her smile disappeared. Michael's eyes widened. You have been digging into my past? Brittany said quietly. That is harassment, Karen. I just want to understand, I said. You did the same thing to the Palmers that you are doing to me. The identity theft, the fraudulent loans, turning the son against his parents. Brittany stood up suddenly. Her chair scraped against the floor. You stupid old woman, she said. You think you are clever? Michael stood too. He grabbed the contract from the table. Mom, just sign this. Right now. Do not make this more difficult than it needs to be. I stayed seated, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was racing. You planned this from the beginning, I said. Both of you. Before you even met me. I know that. You do not know anything, Michael said. But he looked nervous now. Sweat was forming on his forehead. I continued, following Detective Rodriguez's instructions. You stole my documents from the safe. You opened credit cards in my name. Brittany went to the bank pretending to be me and got the home equity loan. Then you waited for me to fall behind on payments so you could buy my house for nothing. Prove it, Brittany spat. No one will believe you. Everyone knows you are crazy. You made sure of that, I said. You called everyone I know and told them I was losing my mind. You isolated me. You destroyed my reputation. Classic con artist tactics. Michael moved toward me. His face was red. Sign the contract, Mom, now. I gripped the arms of my chair. Why? Why did you do this? I am your mother, Michael. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or sadness. But it disappeared quickly. Because you have something we want, he said. And we are going to get it. Brittany got very close to my face. Here is what is going to happen, she said in a low, dangerous voice. You are going to sign this contract. We are taking this house. And if you ever bother us again, if you ever try to tell anyone what you think you know, we will have you committed. We already have 3 doctors lined up who will testify that you are incompetent. You will spend the rest of your life in a nursing home, drugged and forgotten. The threat hung in the air. I felt genuine fear. These were not just con artists, they were dangerous. I started to say my code phrase, I need some. But before I could finish, Brittany suddenly reached over and grabbed my purse from the side table. She dumped the contents onto the table. What are you doing? I asked. Making sure you are not recording this conversation, she said, going through my things. Then her hand stopped. She pulled something from the pile. The small recording device that had been in my purse, as a backup to the one on my body. She held it up. Her face went white, then red with rage. She is wearing a wire, she screamed. The police are here. Michael spun around, panicking. His eyes darted to the windows, to the doors. You are not ruining this for us, Brittany said. She moved quickly into my kitchen, yanked open the drawer, pulled out a knife. We have worked too hard. Michael ran to the front door and positioned himself in front of it, blocking my exit. Brittany came back toward me, holding the knife at her side. Her face was twisted with anger and desperation. We are not going to prison because of you, she said. I opened my mouth to scream the code phrase. I need water. But the words were barely out when the front door burst open. Detective Rodriguez and 2 uniformed officers rushed in. Guns drawn. Police! Drop the weapon! Everything happened very fast after that. Brittany looked at the knife in her hand. Then, at the police. Then, she made a terrible decision. She lunged toward me. An officer tackled her before she got within 3 feet. The knife clattered to the floor. Brittany was screaming, thrashing. It took 2 officers to restrain her. Michael tried to run out the back door. He got halfway across the kitchen before an officer caught him. He fought, trying to break free, but he was quickly handcuffed. I sat in my chair, shaking uncontrollably. Detective Rodriguez came to me. Are you hurt? Did she touch you? I shook my head, unable to speak. You did great, Detective Rodriguez said gently. We got everything, every word. It is over. Michael and Brittany were read their rights, handcuffed, led out of my house. As Michael passed me, he looked at me one final time. The mask was gone. There was nothing but cold hatred in his eyes. This is your fault, he spat. You ruined everything. Then, he was gone. Brittany was screaming as they put her in the police car, threatening me, threatening the officers, promising she would get out and make me pay. I watched through my front window as they drove away. Then I collapsed into my chair and cried. Not tears of sadness this time. Tears of relief, of release, of freedom. It was over. Finally, after months of hell, it was over. The days after the arrests were a blur. The police searched Michael and Brittany's apartment and found boxes of evidence, fake IDs, forged documents, files on other potential victims they had been researching. Detective Rodriguez told me they found detailed notes about me, information about my finances, photos of my house, a timeline of their plans spanning back 3 years. Everything had been carefully calculated and documented. Within a week, more information came out. Brittany had outstanding warrants in 3 other states under different names. She had been running variations of this con for 12 years. There were at least 7 confirmed victims, probably more, who never reported it. Michael had been her partner for at least 2 of those schemes. the Palmers in Texas. And now, me. It turned out the video evidence I had received came from Gregory Palmer, Brittany's second husband. After his parents were victimized, he had started tracking Brittany. He had security footage from their house showing Brittany and Michael planning their next targets. When he realized they had moved on to another family, he tried to warn me anonymously. Gregory came to visit me a month after the arrests. He was in his early 40s, tired-looking, carrying visible guilt. "I am sorry I did not do more sooner," he said. "I was afraid of what they might do if they knew I was interfering, but I should have gone to the police years ago. Maybe I could have stopped them before they hurt you." I told him I understood. I told him I was grateful for his help. Without his warnings and evidence, I might have lost everything. His parents, the Palmers, sent me a long letter. They thanked me for having the courage to fight back. They said they wished they had pushed for criminal charges instead of settling civilly. Maybe if they had, Brittany would have been in prison already, instead of free to hurt more people. The legal process moved quickly after the arrests. The evidence was overwhelming. Michael and Brittany were charged with identity theft, fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, attempted extortion, and assault with a deadly weapon for the knife incident. The district attorney offered Michael a plea deal, 8 years in prison in exchange for his testimony against Brittany. He took it. He showed no remorse. At his sentencing, he blamed me. He said I had ruined his life by refusing to just give them the house. I attended that sentencing. I wanted to look him in the eye one more time. When he saw me, his face twisted with anger, but I did not look away. I sat there calmly, watching the son I had raised be sentenced to prison for trying to destroy me. I did not cry. I had no tears left for him. Brittany went to trial. Her lawyer tried to argue that she had been coerced, that Michael had manipulated her. But the prosecution presented evidence of her long history of cons. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I attended that sentencing too. When the judge read the sentence, Brittany turned and stared at me. She mouthed words I could not hear, but I knew they were threats. I stared back and did not flinch. Financially, things slowly improved. The fraudulent loan was canceled. The bank faced significant penalties for their poor verification processes. They settled with me for an undisclosed amount to avoid a lawsuit. It was enough to cover my legal fees and repair my damaged credit. The credit card companies closed the fake accounts. My credit score began to recover. Janet, my lawyer, helped me put fraud alerts on all my accounts and freeze my credit to prevent future problems. The restraining order against me was dismissed. The arrest was expunged from my record. Everything Brittany and Michael had done to destroy my reputation was systematically undone, but rebuilding my actual relationships was harder. My sister Patricia came to my house one afternoon about 6 weeks after the arrests. She brought flowers and a card. When I opened the door, she started crying. "I am so sorry," she said. "I should have believed you. You are my sister. I should have trusted you." We sat on my couch and talked for hours. She explained how convincing Brittany had been, how worried she had genuinely been about my mental health, how guilty she felt now. I forgave her. What else could I do? She was my sister. And Brittany had been very, very good at manipulation. My brother Thomas called with a similar apology. Other family members reached out. Some with genuine remorse, others just curious about the drama. I was selective about who I let back into my life. Some relationships were worth saving. Others had shown me that they would abandon me when things got hard. Those relationships stayed broken. The community response was mixed. Some people apologized profusely. My church held a special service to pray for me and publicly acknowledge how badly they had treated me. The pastor gave a sermon about the importance of standing by people even when you do not understand their circumstances. Others were more reluctant. A few neighbors never apologized at all. They just started waving again as if nothing had happened, as if they had not avoided me and whispered about me for months. I rejoined my bridge club. The ladies welcomed me back with obvious relief, glad to move past the awkwardness. We never directly talked about what had happened. We just played cards and pretended everything was normal. But things were not normal. I was changed. The experience had fundamentally altered something inside me. I became involved with a local senior advocacy group. I started teaching classes about financial fraud prevention at the community center. I told my story, warning other elderly people about the tactics con artists use, how they isolate you, how they turn family against you, how they make you doubt your own sanity. I helped 3 other women in my community identify and stop scams targeting them. One woman's nephew was trying to get her to sign over her house. Another woman's caregiver was stealing from her. A third woman's daughter's boyfriend was running a similar con to what Brittany had done to me. In each case, I was able to help them see the warning signs, to document the abuse, to get legal help before it was too late. It gave me purpose. It made the suffering I had endured feel meaningful. I had survived, and now I was helping others survive too. About 5 months after the arrests, I started dating someone. His name was Harold, a widower from my church. He was 72, kind, patient. He had heard my whole story and did not run away. We took things slowly. Coffee after church, dinner occasionally, long walks in the park. He never pushed. He understood that trust was difficult for me now. My sister Patricia visited every Sunday for dinner. We had grown closer through this ordeal. She had seen me at my lowest and had not abandoned me again. That meant something. I planted new roses in my garden. I repainted my kitchen. I reclaimed my house, my space, my life. But I also grieved. I grieved for the son I had thought I had, for the little boy who had held my hand and told me he loved me, for the family I had imagined we would be. That boy was gone. Maybe he had never really existed. Maybe the seeds of who Michael became had always been there, and I had just been too blind to see them. A therapist I started seeing told me it was okay to grieve, that I could mourn the loss of the relationship I thought I had, while also accepting the reality of who Michael truly was. It helped, a little, but the wound would always be there. That particular betrayal, the betrayal of your own child, leaves a scar that never fully heals. 6 months after the arrests, I woke up on a Saturday morning and realized I felt peaceful. Not happy exactly, not yet, but peaceful. The sun was streaming through my bedroom window. Birds were singing outside. My house was quiet and safe and mine. I made coffee and sat on my back porch, looking at my garden. The roses I had planted were blooming. Red and pink and yellow flowers, bright and alive. I thought about everything that had happened, the pain, the betrayal, the fight to survive, and I realized something important. I had won, not in the way I had hoped. I had not saved my son. I had not rescued him from a bad marriage or brought him back to me. That fantasy was dead. But I had saved myself. I had fought back. I had refused to be a victim. I had stood up when everyone around me was telling me to sit down and be quiet. I had kept my dignity, my home, my truth, and that was enough. Over the following months, life continued to improve. Harold and I grew closer. He asked if he could take me to dinner for my 68th birthday. I said yes. Patricia hosted a family gathering at her house, and I went. My brother Thomas was there with his wife, a few cousins, people who had doubted me but had come back. We ate and laughed and did not talk about the past. I continued my work with the senior advocacy group. I spoke at community centers and churches about elder financial abuse. I shared my story again and again, hoping it would help someone else recognize the warning signs in their own life. After one talk, a woman in her 70s approached me. She was crying. She thanked me. She said her son and his girlfriend had been pressuring her to sell her house and move in with them. After hearing my story, she realized they were trying to con her. She was going to get a lawyer instead. That made everything worthwhile. All the pain I had endured, all the suffering, if my story could save even one person from going through what I went through, it was worth it. 1 year after the arrests, I hosted a dinner party at my house. It was a warm evening in late spring. I invited Patricia and Thomas and their spouses, Harold, a few friends from church, my bridge club ladies. We gathered around my dining room table, the same table where this nightmare had begun with a thrown glass. But tonight, It was covered with good food and surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. As I poured wine for my guests, someone made a gentle joke. "Need help with that, Karen?" I smiled. "I have got it. But thank you for asking." I looked around the table at the faces gathered there. Not my son. Michael would spend the next 7 years in prison. But these people, these were my real family, the ones who had stood by me. The ones who had come back when they realized their mistake. The ones who had proven their love through action, not just words. Harold reached over and squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. After dinner, after everyone had left, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet, but it was a good quiet, a safe quiet. I thought about everything I had learned through this ordeal. I learned that betrayal can come from the people closest to you. That blood relation does not guarantee loyalty or love. That sometimes the family you are born with is not the family you end up with. I learned that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to fully repair. But that does not mean you stop trusting everyone. It means you become more careful about who you give your trust to. I learned that standing up for yourself, even when you are completely alone, even when everyone tells you that you are wrong, is the most important thing you can do. Your truth matters. Your voice matters. Your worth is not determined by other people's treatment of you. I learned that con artists are everywhere. They target vulnerable people. They exploit love and family bonds. They are patient and calculating, and very, very good at what they do. And elderly people, especially elderly women living alone, are often their preferred victims. I learned that fighting back is possible. It is hard. It is exhausting. It requires courage you did not know you had. But it is possible. I learned that sometimes love means letting go, even of your own child, especially when that child has shown you through their actions that they are not who you thought they were. Michael made his choices. He chose greed over love. He chose crime over family. He chose to see his own mother as a mark, a target, an easy victim to exploit. I had to accept that. I had to grieve the son I thought I had, and accept the reality of the man he became. It still hurt. It probably always would. But I could live with the hurt now. I could carry it without letting it destroy me. And most importantly, I learned that survival is enough. You do not have to come out of trauma completely healed and stronger and better. Sometimes you just come out alive. And that is enough. I am 68 years old now. I am dating a kind man who makes me laugh. I have a sister who visits every week. I have friends who care about me. I have a purpose, helping other elderly people protect themselves from predators. I have my house, my garden, my life. Michael is in prison. Brittany is in prison. They took so much from me, but they did not take everything. They did not win. I did. My name is Karen Thompson. I am a survivor of elder financial abuse and family betrayal. This is my story. And to anyone listening who might be going through something similar, I want you to know this. You are not crazy. You are not alone. Trust your instincts. Document everything. Find one person who believes you and hold on tight. Get a lawyer. Fight back. It will be the hardest thing you have ever done. But you can do it. I did. And if a 67-year-old widow with no computer skills and no experience with the legal system can take down 2 con artists and send them to prison, so can you. Your life is worth fighting for. Your home is worth fighting for. Your truth is worth fighting for. Do not let them win. Fight back. Survive. And when it is over, plant roses and invite people you love to dinner and live your life on your own terms. That is victory. That is enough. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when nobody believed you? Have you ever had to fight for your truth completely alone? How did you find the strength to keep going? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. If this story touched you or made you think about your own relationships, please hit that like button. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing this, especially an elderly friend or family member who might be vulnerable to this kind of abuse, please share this story with them. You might save their life. Subscribe to hear more stories of survival, justice, and hope. Your support means everything and helps us reach more people who need to hear these messages. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. I wish you peace, safety, and the courage to always stand up for yourself, no matter who stands against you. You are stronger than you know. Never forget that. Take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.